Guys, owning land here is something you can do. You can control it. You can never really have complete title, but you can control it. The key is having a great wife, having someone you can trust. If you don't have a good wife, don't buy land. Don't buy land. It's nothing but trouble. If you've had issues with your wife over money, over finances, over infidelity, don't do it. Today, I want to talk to you about land ownership here in the Philippines. Now, I've been telling all you guys that Jan and I purchased some property, that we're getting ready to build on it. But the big question, the big comment I keep getting from everybody is, why would you do that? You cannot own the land. Why would you buy something you cannot own? Well, there's a lot of reasons why I want to do something like that, and we'll get into that. But first, let's talk about the ability of a foreigner to own land in the Philippines. A foreigner cannot own the land. You can never have clear title to the land. Even if you're married to your Filipina, the land will be in her name. It's not going to be in your name. You'll never get clear ownership of that property. You'll never get the title, no matter what happens during your marriage. If someone passes or whatever reason, there's no way you're ever going to have that title in your name alone. The title is going to be in your wife's name. Your name will be on the title as the spouse or the husband. That gives you some protection. Now, how do you protect yourself? Your name's on the title. First of all, never buy property here in the Philippines unless you're married. And you must be married to somebody you care for, somebody that's you're secure. You don't have any insecurities. You don't feel like she'll ever leave you. You also feel like you'll never leave her. The one rule of thumb, and I agree with this going back to 10, 15 years ago when I first started hearing about the Philippines and moving to the Philippines, never invest in anything overseas unless you're willing to walk away from it, unless you're willing and can't afford to walk away from that property. Now, when I bought this land with Janet, talking it over with the attorney, the process that's going through is we're going to get a clear title to the lot that we bought. We had the property subdivided. There's going to be a survey already done. And on that survey, we'll have a lot number, a parcel number, and that parcel, once it's completed, once, the government agencies, the BIR, and everybody else involved is done with all the tax work and, research that they do to get you a clear title, it's going to be Janet's name. And I'm going to be known as the husband or the spouse on that title. Janet cannot sell that property without me approving the sale. And if she does sell it, for some reason, somehow gets sold, I'm entitled to 50% of the asset of that property. So you are protected by law to recover some of the money that you put into property. There's no divorce here. There's no divorce. But if you and your wife do want to sell that property and you want to split the proceeds, that's something you can do. It all depends on your relationship with your wife. If you have a solid relationship and you need to sell that property, the two of you can use all the assets. But a lot of people are talking about what ifs. I've been married many times in the U.S. I've bought 3 different houses, 3 different wives, and in each divorce settlement, the wife got the majority stake in the house. So it's the same thing in the U.S., same thing here. There's always the possibility you're with somebody you do not anticipate breaking up. You do not anticipate that someday the relationship's going to fall apart. But if it does, you do have some protection here, but you are going to take a financial hit. Now, as for the house, you're going to build a house on that property. You can title that house in your name alone, or you can title it in both your names. You're protected there. You own that house. Keep the receipts for the building material. Keep the receipts that, for the work that was done. Just keep all of these as a record showing how much money you got involved into the property in case you ever have to sell it. But you own the house. You own all the improvements upon the land if you paid for it. And you can have that house titled just to you. The land is one title. The home is a separate title. And you can have it titled to you. Now, if you're foolish enough to build a house on family land and for some reason that marriage falls apart, that's a whole different story. You have that house in your name. You have title to that dwelling that you built on that property. But if the family determines that you do not have the right to cross their property, you do not have any type of right of way to get to that house, what good is it? So building property on family land, make sure you get a lease. And this is the other way you can protect yourself. When you build the house, get yourself a 25 or 50-year lease for the land, the usage lease, that you can use the land for whatever purpose you want. You also get the right to build on the property. Make sure you get that in writing. And the lease, I don't know what the fair market value of a lease is nowadays, but I do know if I'm a Filipino and I own a piece of property and you want to rent it for 50 years, you want to lease it, I'm going to want almost true market value of that property. I'm going to want, you know, total payment within a few years for that long-term lease. So all you're doing with a lease is you're saying, I'm buying the property, but it's not in my name. I'm using it for the period of time that I'm staying alive, the 25 years or 50 years. You've paid them for the use of that property. And then upon your death, or you leave the country, or you break the lease one way or the other, or the lease just comes to an end, they get everything. They get the buildings that you built. They get the improvements to the land. If you put a wall up, if you put a driveway in, you put a carport, all that reverts to them. Now, if you're alive when the lease comes to an end, you can take all that stuff. You can tear the house down. You can tear the carport down. You can sell it brick by brick. You can do that. But that's not the purpose of having a lease. The purpose of the lease is giving you the right to live there until you're done. And when you're done, then it reverts back to the original owner. Now, say the person you have the lease with, they pass before the lease is up. They go before you. And a lot of this is what happens if somebody dies. And the lease continues. The new owners of that land have to abide by the lease, because you have a lease with the property, with a person and their estate. So the lease will continue for that 25 or 50 years, and you can stay there even though it's changing hands. I'm going to tell you a story. There was an old man I met on the mountain going up to the Japanese shrine out here in Valencia. And he owned a beautiful piece of property he was on. He wanted to lease that land. And as we were talking to him about how much money he wanted to lease the land, he really didn't know. But the real story there was the wife passed away. There was a son in the wings. It wasn't his biological son. It was his stepson. And this gentleman was allowed to live on the property, continue with his life there until he finally did pass away. And then the son took over the property. Usually the family is going to respect your wishes. If you've been good to the family, if your spouse passes away, nobody's going to force you off the land. They're going to let you live out your life. But, you know, it's not every family's a good family. You lease some land. And this is something I worried about to these guys who are young and they come here. They don't want a wife. They don't want anything, but they want to build something on the ocean. So they lease some land and they start building this beautiful house. And once the house is built, what if something happens to him and he's the one that passes? Well, all that reverts back to the landowner. You know, if he doesn't have a wife or somebody to inherit it, that's going to revert to the landowner. So be careful what you invest in. Like I said, be prepared to walk away from it. Make sure you have a will so somebody knows who inherits whatever you have. You know, if there's furniture there, if you have a car there, some sort of will, so people know what's going on. Have a lawyer. The biggest thing here, and I should have stated this in the very beginning, you cannot own land here in the Philippines, but you can control the land. You can control it. And that's what you want to do with land here in the Philippines. You want to control it. And you can control it by having your name on the title, having a good wife, and the two of you own the property, and you're working as a team to build a beautiful house, build a beautiful place to live, and enjoy your life. But you need an attorney. You need the attorney to make sure you have a will, because if something happens to your wife and she doesn't have a will, the law is here for inheritance, is usually the children, the parents, the siblings, and then the husband. So you're not first in line to receive whatever you have left upon her death. So make sure you have some sort of will. A good attorney is worth their weight in gold. I've seen some attorneys cost, 5,000 pesos, and some attorneys are 200,000. Think about the total value that you have invested and what is the right price for you. Quality of lawyer do you need? If it's a big place you're building and you're spending millions of pesos, paying a high-priced lawyer who knows what they're doing, gets the work done, top-notch lawyer. Don't skimp on the price. If you're just building a small 2-bedroom, simple house on the girl's parents' land, you just need a simple lease with a simple lawyer. And all this has to do with the relationship you have with your wife. You got to make sure she is the one. Don't get married just so you can get a 13A and you don't have to go to immigration every couple months. Don't get married just so you can have some land and build a house. All of these are bad things and doesn't lead to a long-term marriage. You got to make sure you're secure in your relationship. Those guys who are worried from day one that their girlfriend or the family of the girlfriend is going to take their money, their assets, you're too insecure to ever buy property, so stay away from it. Owning property is a good thing here. It's a great way to take care of your loved one. You meet that girl like I have, Janet. I want to take care of her. I do not need to live on that property. There's no reason I can live in my nice rental house. I can go rent another house. We can go to another city and rent a condo or an apartment. But this land is Janet's for life. When I'm gone, PJ's 18. He can roll up his sleeves and build something on there if we don't get it done. Buying property for a loved one like Janet or whoever you marry, that's what you're doing because you care for them and you're trying to improve the quality of their life and do something for their future. If you're looking at it as greed, I want to build something and this is for me and I'm just using the girl for her being a citizen here in the Philippines, I'm sure those relationships aren't going to work out. So make sure the insecurities are gone and trust. Trust is the biggest thing in a relationship here in the Philippines. If you have a good, trusting girl, a solid relationship, you really don't have many problems. I don't foresee problems, but you never know the future. Get that good attorney. So let's talk about the girl and buying property. If you're dating and you're getting ready to get married, you have a fiance, don't buy the property until you're married. Because if she buys the property prior to you being married, that is assets prior to the marriage. The equal division of assets are assets that are acquired after the marriage. So, be careful. If she's bought that property or you invested in buying that property prior to her being married to you, that's her property. You will not be on the deed. You will not be on the title. Just her. You can get a prenuptial agreement. She can make a will saying that you can inherit the property, yes, but then the family can fight that. So if you're going to get married at some point and you're going to buy a property or even purchase a house here in the Philippines, do it after you get married. Go ahead and pull the trigger and get married first. That gives you an extra layer of protection in case things don't work out. But if you start buying property, building the house, and you're not married yet, your protection is less than it would be if you were married prior to the purchase of the land. So what happens if you do get separated and you want to break it off and you go to court and the court says, yes, you're entitled to half the proceeds, or she passes? And what can you do? You can never get title to the property in either case. In the case of getting, totally separated, going to court, maybe you get an annulment. Maybe you go back to the U.S. and you file for a divorce and then you come back here. You can go to court and you would be entitled to half the value of the property. That means if they sold the property, you would get half the money. But your name could never be on that title. You can never buy them out. You can never go the other route and say, hey, here's half the money. Let me pay you 50% of the value. Give me title. It doesn't work that way. You can never have that land in your name. What if it's a corporation? What if she is 60% owner of the corporation? You're 40. And the two of you are leasing the property, or you're leasing the property from the corporation. Well, as owner of the corporation, she can sell the corporation. She can dissolve the corporation. She could sell that property to whoever she wants for whatever amount of money that she wants. So you think you're protected by being incorporated? I don't think so. I could be wrong. I'm sure I'm going to get a ton of comments down below, guys. Let me know if I'm full of BS or you agree with me. And if I am wrong about something, and I've been known to be wrong in the past, leave a comment and tell me about it. But if you go to court and as a corporation, she still has the power because she owns 60% of the corporation. And a lot of Chinese buy land here in the Philippines. And the way they do it is they own 40%, but the other 60% is dispersed among Filipinos all over the Philippines. So nobody really knows anybody. When it's decision time, they just got to get a couple people together to make the decision to have 51% majority, and that's how they control the property. You can control it. You can control the property with a lease. You can control the property as being husband and wife, and as a husband, you control the marriage. You control the relationship. The Philippines is a country that values the man in the family making the decisions, doing the right thing. Don't be mistreating anybody or doing anything wrong, but they do respect the man's wishes in family matters. So those are all good points for you. As for the title and it's time to sell, and you sell it, there's like a closing. You know, you get an attorney at the closing and it's 50-50. You know, you make whatever payment arrangements between the seller and you and your spouse, and say it's 50% down. When they make that 50% down, you each take your share, and that's life until the next payment is due. What if she passes? What if she dies? What if she has children? And what if? What if she goes first? I'm 70. You guys are what, in your 60s, 70s, 80s? You don't expect your young wife to go first. The natural order of things in the universe, you're going to pass first, and then your wife, and then her children. Sometimes life doesn't work out that way. If she passes first, you're giving a certain amount of time to sell the property. And nobody has a stopwatch. Nobody is going, it has to be sold in 2 months or 6 months or a year, but you do have to put it up for sale. And you can put it up for sale, and if you don't get your price, well, it just takes longer to get it sold. If there's children involved, you can you have to decide how you're going to handle it with the children. You can tell them if they're older, you can live on this property. Say you have a hectare or a couple hectares. You can say, you can build on this property. I just want to live over here. You can make some sort of verbal agreement with them that they don't push the envelope. They don't push you to sell the property faster than you really want to. But they do give you time to recoup your money. And if you sell it, it's yours. It's 50-50. It was 50% to your wife, and she left it all to you in the will. Be a good guy. Leave the land to the kids, man. If you have children involved, be a good father, be a good stepdad. If they've been living with you a long time, consider leaving them the property. I know the will I'm going to do with Janet will include Janet and PJ and myself, since there's only one child involved. I do not need to incorporate her parents or her siblings or anything of that nature, but every family structure is different. And like I said, if you're living on family land where you're not buying land, the family says, hey, go build your house in the corner over there. That's not your land. You can own the house, but who would ever buy that house if the owner of the land won't give the new people the right to walk on the property to get to that house? or they go to the court and say, hey, this is a bad man. We don't want him on our property. Yes, you own the house, but you can't get to it. It's like a landlocked piece of property. It does you no good. So be careful if you're building on family land. Make sure you have a right of way. Make sure you get a really, really good lawyer. You really have to protect yourself. Even better when it's a group of people or a family you're protecting yourself from than if it's just your wife who has clear title and it's you and her. When family's involved, there's siblings and there's cousins and there's brothers and it's just a mess dealing with that. Make sure you have a real good lawyer. So guys, owning land here is something you can do. You can control it. You can never really have complete title, but you can control it. The key is having a great wife, having someone you can trust. If you don't have a good wife, don't buy land. Don't buy land. It's nothing but trouble. If you've had issues with your wife over money, over finances, over infidelity, don't do it. It's not a good situation for you. Buying land is not for everybody. It's a very small percentage of people who come here to try to buy land and to build something. And it takes years to get the title. Years. You see the horror stories, but they're true stories. It's not that someone's trying to cheat you. It's not the seller holding you up. It's not the lawyer doing a bad job. It's just the way it is here in the Philippines. Things take time. On the title we're dealing with, we have some requirements. Well, the original requirements that we got, a couple of those documents are only good for 6 months. Well, the 6 months has elapsed. Those documents are no longer valid, and we have to go get new paperwork with new notary and a new date on there. So it's nobody's personal fault. It's not the fault, like I said, of the seller, of the attorney, of your spouse, of you, a friend, of anybody, the real estate agent. It's just the way it is. Things take time here in the Philippines. And I believe I'm going to get 95% of people who own a house here in the Philippines, built their own house, especially here in Dumaguete area, don't have title. And a lot of them will never see a title, but a lot of them will after a couple years. It's just you get yourself a bill of sale, you get yourself the right to build on the property, and you can go ahead without having clear title. People think it's a negative to build before you get a clear title. It could be. It could be. Everything could collapse on you and just be a waste of time and money. But in the vast majority of cases, there's nothing wrong with that. So, guys, any questions, any comments, leave them below. I'll try to answer them. But buying property here in the Philippines, you can't own it, but you can control it if you get a good lawyer and have a good wife. Until next time.